He kissed me and threw me down the cubbyhole. Chilling words from Katie Beers, a 9-year-old girl who was kidnapped and held captive in an underground bunker in 1992. Her story is as harrowing as it is unbelievable. The abduction took place at Spaceplex, Katie's favorite spot, a place of joy and excitement turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. It was December, the holiday season, a time for celebration, but for Katie, it was the beginning of a nightmare. Katie's world was turned upside down as she was thrust into a terrifying game of survival. She wasn't just a missing child, she was a pawn in a twisted game, woven with lies and deceit. Each day that passed, the investigators dug deeper into the stories told by those closest to Katie, unraveling a web of mistruths, each one more suspicious than the last. It was a race against time, a desperate search to find a lost girl amidst a sea of deception. But Katie was not just a victim, she was a fighter, a survivor. Beneath the fear and the horror, her spirit remained unbroken. Even as she was trapped within the confines of a wall, her wits stayed with her. In the face of terror, she found a strength within herself, a resolve that would eventually lead to justice against her kidnappers. Underneath the everyday life of suburban New York, in a hidden bunker, a story of fear, bravery, and survival was unfolding. A story that would capture the attention of a nation, reveal shocking truths, and ultimately expose a monster. This is the story of the girl in the wall, the disturbing case of Katie Beers. Katie was trapped in the wall, but her wits would eventually lead to justice against her kidnappers. This is just the beginning of her harrowing journey. A journey of survival, resilience, and ultimately, triumph against the unseen terror. Katie Beers was born on December 30th, 1982, in the town of Mastic Beach, Long Island. A tiny babe swaddled in the mystery of life, unaware of the grim narrative that would overtake her childhood. The innocence of her birth was tainted by the harsh realities that would soon surround her. Her mother, a figure who should have been a beacon of love and protection, was instead a source of neglect and abuse. Katie's early years were not filled with the typical carefree joy of childhood, but with the crushing weight of mistreatment. Not only was her mother a source of pain, but her godparents too cruelly twisted the sacred bond they were supposed to uphold. The torment didn't stop there. Katie was lured into a terrifying ordeal by a family friend, John Esposito. A man whose past was marred by sexual abuse, he took advantage of Katie's trust and vulnerability. Promises of birthday presents were nothing more than a deceitful trap leading to a horrifying underground bunker. This bunker, a chilling symbol of her torment, became the backdrop for Katie's days of captivity. From December 28, 1992 to January 13, 1993, Katie was held captive, abused, and isolated from the world. The walls of this bunker would soon become an infamous symbol of her survival story. Throughout her ordeal, however, Katie held on to a shard of resilience. Even in the face of such adversity, she managed to maintain her wits. This keenness of mind would eventually lead to justice against her kidnappers and ignite her transformation from victim to survivor. Despite the trials she faced, Katie refused to be defined by her past. She later spoke publicly about her ordeal, penned a memoir, and had her story covered in various media. Her legacy is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a beacon of hope for those who have endured similar trials. But to people familiar with this case, she's ended up being known as the girl in the wall. A title that encapsulates not only her terrifying ordeal, but also her incredible resilience. A girl born into hardship, who emerged as a survivor, a beacon of hope, and an inspiration to many. Kidnapped, assaulted, trapped, and chained up, 9-year-old Katie Beers was abandoned by her mom, then used as a slave by her godmother and her sexually deviant husband. Picture this, a child, just 9 years old, bearing the weight of the world on her tiny shoulders. A child who should have been playing with dolls and making friends at school, but instead was subjected to the unthinkable. Katie Beers, the girl in the wall, was robbed of her childhood and thrust into a living nightmare. Her godmother Linda and Linda's husband Sal showed her no kindness. Instead, they treated her like a servant, making her do laundry, clean bathrooms, cook dinner. This was the life she knew, a life devoid of love, warmth, or any semblance of normalcy. Yet the daily grind of chores was far from the worst of her ordeal. The real monster of this tale was not the woman who made her scrub floors, but the man who shared her bed. From the tender age of 2, Katie was sexually abused by her godmother's husband. Can you imagine the terror, the confusion, the utter despair? When she tried to tell her godmother about the abuse, her pleas fell on deaf ears. She was called a liar, dismissed, the truth of her suffering ignored. And then, as if her life wasn't already a horror story, it took a turn for the worse. Katie was kidnapped and held captive in an underground dungeon by a man named John Esposito, the very man who, in a twisted way, had been her only friend. The same man who lured her with promises of birthday presents, only to lock her away in a bunker hidden from the world. For over 17 days, Katie endured her horrifying ordeal, alone and afraid, while the world outside remained oblivious. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. For over 3 weeks, the Long Island police dug deep into this menagerie of characters, each more suspicious than the next, in hopes of getting their hands on the captive 9-year-old. Little did they know that the girl they were looking for was right under their noses, buried beneath the ground, living a horror that most of us can only imagine in our worst nightmares. She's behind the wall. If she's behind the wall, she's not alive. But to their surprise, she was already at it. She knew how to save herself. At just 9 years old, Katie Beers was trapped, but she wasn't inactive. She was strategizing, planning, and using every ounce of her willpower to survive. The little girl, who had been subjected to such unthinkable horrors, was now displaying an incredible resilience. In the claustrophobic confines of her prison, Katie's mind became her greatest weapon. She was locked away, but her spirit remained unbroken. She used her wits, her resourcefulness, and perhaps most importantly, her courage to stay alive. The captor, John Esposito, was a manipulative character, but Katie, even at her tender age, was able to play on his emotions and insecurities. She knew that her survival hinged on making Esposito believe that she was on his side. She convinced him that she cared for him, that she wanted to be with him. It was a dangerous game, but it was her only option. Every day, she got closer to her goal. Every conversation with Esposito, every plea for her release, every promise she made to him was a step towards freedom. She was careful, she was patient, she was persistent. And then, on the 17th day of her captivity, Katie saw her opportunity. Esposito, worn down by her relentless pleas and promises, finally gave in. He released her from the dungeon, believing that she would stay with him. But Katie had other plans. She seized the moment and made a run for it. She escaped, leaving her captor and her prison behind. Katie's bravery didn't just save her life, it also led to the capture and conviction of her captor. The police, who had been searching for her in vain, were astounded by her resourcefulness and her will to survive. And so, the story of the girl in the wall came to an unexpected and triumphant end. A story of survival, of resilience, and of a little girl's determination to escape from the clutches of a monster. This little girl, at 10 years old, changed a kidnapper's mind. After the nightmare, Katie Beers was placed in foster care, where she received the anonymity and support she needed. In a world that had shown her so much darkness, the foster system became her beacon of hope. She was taken in by a loving family, who gave her a chance to experience a normal childhood, something she had been cruelly deprived of. Katie's new life was a stark contrast to her past. She was finally able to attend school, make friends her own age, and enjoy the simple joys of being a child. As she grew older, she used her education as a stepping stone towards a brighter future, proving that her past did not define her. As a young adult, Katie chose to step into the public eye, bravely speaking out about her ordeal. She became a beacon of strength for other survivors, using her voice to shed light on the harsh realities of child abuse and kidnapping. Her courage resonated with many, earning her a spot on various talk shows and news segments. In 2013, she took her advocacy a step further, penning a memoir titled Buried Memories, Katie Beers' Story. The book was not just a recounting of her harrowing experience, but a testament to her resilience and her journey towards healing. It served as a stark reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the power of survival. The media coverage of her story was extensive, reaching corners of the globe. Her tale of survival became a beacon of hope for others going through similar experiences, proving that it is possible to overcome even the most traumatic of circumstances. Despite the horrors she endured, Katie Beers emerged as a survivor, using her experience to raise awareness and inspire others. Her story continues to serve as a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit, reminding us all of the strength that lies within us, even in the face of unimaginable adversity.